Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Launchpad. This is our second of 3 streams today. You are joining us for our live launch coverage of Transporter 2. This is the second attempt at launching this vehicle. Yesterday, we got all the way down to 10 seconds. The weather was going to hold, and a helicopter flew into the TFR. So we are back. We're here for round 2 today. If you don't know what Transporter 2 is, it is the second dedicated rideshare mission from SpaceX. They're going to be launching a Falcon 9 Block 5 booster. Today's booster is 1060-8, meaning this is its 8th flight and possible 8th recovery. So very much picking up that speed of turning around these boosters. It's a 62-day turnaround for this booster, and this booster has now flown 8 times within 365 days. So really amazing just how quickly they're turning these boosters around. Today's launch is from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We're just waiting for SpaceX to go live here. But while we wait for them, a couple quick things to do. Check us out on all our socials. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. And if you could hit that like, it really does help YouTube just share this out with more people so we can share the joys of space and science with them and what is currently happening. And if you want to help support our work, you can join us on Patreon or YouTube memberships, and all that goes right back into bringing you the best possible launch coverage, space news, and educational videos. Our Artemis Accord video is coming very, very soon. We're finalizing it, so keep an eye out of that, where we are going to give you the full breakdown of everything Artemis Accords, and it'll be your unofficial guide to that. We're going to take a quick look here just at the weather for today, because we were concerned about that. This is the weather. The red zone you're seeing is the TFR for today, so that's the do not fly zone. So we're keeping an eye on that. This zone should be going into effect pretty much any moment now, and they're going to be launching from Slick 40 right around the middle of here. So we hope to not see any planes or helicopters. We don't know what these two are doing in this zone here today. We have been listening into Mission Control, and they are progressing with the fueling. Second stage LOX load was complete, so they are continuing up with their fueling here. Also, we're going to switch over really quick. Here's the flight telemetry for today for the trajectory. This is thanks to Flight Club IO. Definitely go check out their website. We're hoping to be able to use more of their information in our streams. So the orange lines that you are seeing are the powered flight segments, and white lines are when they are just coasting. So you can see the large orange line. That's the first stage. Stage shutdown separation. Second stage ignition. It continues off on its orbit. The second stage, the first stage then does a boost back, comes back, does an entry burn, and then the landing burn, because today's booster is one of the rare times we are going to see a booster landing at landing zone 1. We haven't seen one of these in a while. And then the second stage will continue on its way. Here is the other one of the other exclusion zones, and the other one. We are going to be seeing some polar Starlink missions here starting in July. This red zone is where we are expecting there to be the drone ship to recover the booster, but also they have to recapture the fairings as well. So we're keeping an eye on that. So that's the telemetry here. It sounds like SpaceX is going live, so I'm going to go pull that up so we can have that for you guys. But while we get started, let me know in the chat where you are watching from. We'd love to hear that and what you think about today's flight. Do you think we are going to have a go or a no-go for today? Love to hear what you guys are thinking. And here we go. We'll pull up SpaceX here in a moment. We've got Mongolia. Hello, welcome. Good to see you, Orange Star, Islam Preston. Good to see you all. Hey, Dizzy, how's it going? Make sure you've hit that subscribe button. Give a shout out to a couple of our new subscribers. We've got Timothy Stark, the subscribed, Urea, I believe, and we've got Danny and Timothy. So thanks so much for subscribing there. Take a moment, share the broadcast out, as we are coming up on about T-minus 15 minutes, not even yet, for the launch of Transporter 2. This is take 2. And we are hoping to have a successful flight today. And then, of course, if you're going to want to do something tonight, join us tonight for the landing pad. This is our weekly hangout where we hang out, just talk about everything space, answer your questions, talk about topics you guys pick in the chat, and we fly Kerbal. I'll build some crafts, we fly some of your crafts. If you haven't joined our Discord, the link's in the description. Join the Discord, jump in the Kerbal channel, and you can send in your crafts and I will fly them. Tonight we're going to be trying out a SN20 craft from G in the chat, and we'd love to try your crafts as well. So join us for that. That's at 8 p.m. Mountain tonight. We normally hang out for a couple hours and just talk about everything, but an exciting day here for the launch. We're just waiting for SpaceX to get their stream fully up and running, get their intro, and we'll hopefully have a weather update, as the weather in the region, as we saw on that other feed here, is quite strong in the region. They pushed the launch window twice already today, 20-minute delay and then another 20-minute delay. So we are watching for that to happen here. Also, make sure to answer the poll in the chat. Do you think it's going to launch today? We'd love to hear what you guys think about that. Hey, Wealth, Udin, lots of new people. Welcome. It's so great to see everyone. If you're new here, hi, my name's Zach. I'm the host here at the launch pad. Here at the pad, we cover everything space, space flight, space engineering, the future of space and STEM, and we just love to invite you to be part of this community. If you join our Discord, feel free to jump on into the live hangout. I've got you in my ear. We've got some people in there hanging out, talking about everything space and space flight and everything happening today. So we're in there talking. It's a free community to join, and love to have you guys as part of it.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
SpaceX is going live here, so we're going to pull it up with their great intro as always. And the moment they give us an update, we will patch their audio in. Hello from Denmark. So good to see you. Currently raining in Orlando. Hopefully it's clear by Cape Canaveral. They just need a little bit clear. And they can launch in rain. They just don't want thunderstorms. And especially since they're doing a landing zone landing like that on screen, we want to make sure it's clear.
Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, June 30th, and we're here at SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California. You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 3:31 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. My name is Andy Tran. I'm a production supervisor here at SpaceX. Welcome to the webcast for SpaceX's Transporter 2 mission. It's our second dedicated smallsat rideshare program launch and second launch, or 20th launch of 2021. For those of you who joined us yesterday, you know that we got all the way down to T-minus 11 seconds, but had to stand down from our launch attempt due to rotary aircraft entering the keep-out zone. We are expecting the airways to stay clear today and looking forward to having Falcon 9 deliver the 85 spacecraft and 3 Starlink satellites on board to orbit. Now, this includes CubeSats, microsats, and orbital transfer vehicles, sometimes called space tugs, which will deploy their spacecraft after separating from Falcon 9. Today's launch is SpaceX's second polar orbit launch from the East Coast, and only the second polar trajectory since the late 1960s flown out of Cape Canaveral. A polar orbit is one in which satellites pass above the North and South poles, as opposed to the equator. SpaceX has worked closely with the Air Force and the FAA to create a trajectory that meets the necessary safety requirements for flight. So far, everything's looking like a great day for a rocket launch at the Cape, and with liftoff in just under 10 minutes, let's take a closer look at Falcon 9. The 2-stage vehicle is standing.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting SpaceX.
Or slightly taller than a
Brenda?
building.
Is it Brenda?
From Star Wars.
What?
And the number 9 indicates the number of
Thank you?
engines on
That's I don't even know what to say. That's crazy generous. Thank you so much. That's going to be a huge help to our trip down to Inspiration 4 and bringing that coverage and down to Starbase. Everybody be like Brenda. Wow, thank you. I need to put that on screen here again. That's absolutely crazy. Everybody say thank you or something in the chat. Give a shout out. That is, wow, thank you so much. I hope that wasn't a mistake. That's like really crazy. But I don't want to skip on just how amazing that is, but I want to make sure we bring this coverage. That's why you guys are here. So I'm going to bring this back in. We're going to listen back in and we'll talk about that again in a few minutes once we're in the coast phase. But thank you so much. Wow, that's very generous.
Separates about 2.5 minutes into flight. The second stage will then carry the 88 spacecraft to orbit. Similar to the first transporter mission, we'll be flying a fuel dome payload tray, which is essentially a small platform mounted on the back end of the second stage fuel dome that will release a handful of spacecraft today. This is worth mentioning as we expect this tray to obstruct one of our 2 MVAC views during flight. At the top of the rocket, you'll notice a large nose cone. This is called the fairing. Encapsulated inside the fairing are all 88 satellites, protecting them until the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing separates to expose the satellites to space. For today's mission, our fairing is making its 3rd flight, and we're also going to be attempting to recover the fairing halves from the water following landing with our chartered recovery vessel, HOS Briarwood. The chief engineer held a technical poll at T-minus 60 minutes, and the launch director held a propellant load and launch go-no-go poll at T-minus 38 minutes. Since the T-minus 35-minute mark, Falcon 9 has been loading propellants. The vehicle is a bipropellant vehicle, which means it uses 2 types of propellants. For fuel, a refined form of kerosene called RP1, and for oxidizer, super chill liquid oxygen, we also refer to that as LOX. Currently, RP1 is fully loaded on the second stage and almost fully loaded on the first stage. Liquid oxygen loading is currently underway. We're also loading helium into storage vessels on the first and second stages.
So generous.
We take
I very
cold
much
helium and run
appreciate
it through
that.
heat exchangers on the Merlin engines, and this hot
Thank you
helium
for
is used
making
to
the
fill
launch
an
pad
empty volume in the
possible.
tanks
Like
created by
that's
the engine
extremely
pumps pulling
generous.
propellant
Thank you.
out of the stage. A few seconds ago, engine chill began. This is where we opened the pre-valves between the first stage prop tanks and the 9 Merlin engines. This allows a little bit of cold liquid oxygen to flow into the turbopumps, bringing them down to a temperature close to that of the super chill propellant that will soon be flowing through the engines at liftoff. We're at T-minus 6 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. The vehicle is healthy. We're tracking no issues so far. The range is standing by to support, and the weather is green for today's liftoff. All systems continue to be go for an on-time liftoff at 3:31 p.m. Eastern Time.
Stage 1 RP1 load is complete.
Today's launch will mark SpaceX's 20th mission of the year and the 127th mission.
So I am keeping an eye on this here. This is the TFR zones and live tracking of public aircraft. And there's a couple aircrafts in those red zones right now. So we'll keep an eye on it. But it looks like weather is looking good, which is great news. So we'll come back to the SpaceX feed, but we're going to keep an eye on that weather tracking here as well.
Allows SpaceX to fly the most expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down the cost of space access. It also allows us to increase our launch cadence and provide more flight opportunities for our customers like those on board today's mission. In fact, last year, we launched more than any other launch provider in the world. If you've been keeping track, you know our first transporter mission launched a record-breaking 143 spacecraft. And while there are fewer customer spacecrafts on board today's compared to Transporter 1, we're actually launching more mass to orbit on this mission than the previous one. SpaceX is targeting 3 dedicated rideshare flights to Sun-Synchronous orbits per year, and we also offer opportunities for a ride to orbit on our Starlink missions, which launch every couple of weeks. Small satellites can ride to space on SpaceX's Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, as well as Starship in the not-too-distant future. We are under 5 minutes from liftoff. Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. In a few moments here, the strongback will begin to open up its clamp arms, and once open, it will begin to retract away from the rocket to its pre-launch position, about 2 degrees away from the vehicle. And as Falcon 9 lifts off, hydraulic arms will continue to pull the strongback further away to provide clearance for liftoff. So there was the call out for the clamp arms to start opening up. They are situated right at the bottom of the fairing there. The strongback is part of the transporter erector, also called the TE. The TE's job is to roll Falcon 9 out to the launch pad, raise it to a vertical launch position, also route power, fluids, and communication to both the rocket and satellite. The T has a launch mount that the first stage is clamped to, and the strong back that is hinged to that launch mount. And you can start to hear the hiss and pop of pressure venting from the rocket and the plumbing in the transporter erector. At this stage, the strong back should be reclined to its pre-launch position, again 2 degrees away from the vehicle. We are just over 3 minutes until liftoff. The vehicle remains in good health. The first and second stages are almost fully fueled.
The first and second stages are almost fully fueled, so what we're expecting to see here at about 1 minute is we're going to see some very large venting, much larger than we're seeing right now. That's when they're going to purge all the lines in the stromback and on the pad to safe the pad to be ready for launch, and then it will go to internal power and start going. But take a moment, share the broadcast, let people know that we are just 2.5 minutes away from liftoff of Transporter 2. Here's hoping the range stays clear and the weather holds, but so far it is looking good. You're watching our live coverage of Transporter 2 launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station with booster 1060-8, attempting to land back at landing zone 1.
Weather remains green. The range is also standing by to support. And as a reminder, if we don't get the opportunity to launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at the same time.
Stage 2 lock load is complete.
And there was the call up for second stage LOX loading complete. That is the last of propellant loading. Falcon 9 is now fully fueled and ready for liftoff in about 1 minute and 40 seconds. You can start to see some white clouds starting to form around Falcon 9. That is normal and expected for us at this stage in the countdown. When the dense cold liquid oxygen meets the warmer ambient air of Florida, it begins to condense and form the white clouds that you see on screen.
There's that big vent that we are always looking for, and that's them purging all those lines and safing the pad. So that's normal to see. Lots of goes into the launch. Come on, Transporter 2. T-minus 60 seconds.
Falcon is in startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup. You can start to hear some of the cheers here in Hawthorne. The first and second stages are beginning to pressurize for launch.
45 seconds.
Falcon 9, Transporter 2, LD is go for launch.
That was the launch director giving the final go for launch. We are T-minus 30 seconds from liftoff. Let's tune into terminal count and watch as the Transporter 2 mission begins.
20 seconds. Come on, clear the range. 15.
T-minus 15 seconds.
10.
10.
9.
9. 8. 7. 6. 5.
We're going. Here
4,
we go.
3. 2. 1. 0.
Ignition.
And liftoff.
There she goes.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
See those dirty fairings
First
and the
stage
dirty
chamber pressure
booster
is nominal.
with the clean second stage, because the second stage is always new.
We are
coming up on
42 seconds into flight. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower, and we're currently throttling down in preparation for max Q. That should be coming up in about 20 seconds. Max Q is where the vehicle will experience the highest amount of aerodynamic pressures.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. Max Q.
And you heard the call out. We've passed the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. Falcon 9 is now headed south along the Florida coast. All is looking good with the first stage trajectory. We have 5 events coming up in quick succession in about a minute. The first is main engine cutoff,
Camera's
also
going
known
as far as it can
MECO,
go.
followed by
And it's out of
stage
sight.
separation, where the 2 stages will separate from one another. The first stage will then perform a flip to head back towards Florida, and the MVAC engine on the second stage will perform second engine start 1 and ignite that MVAC engine. Then the first stage will also begin its first of 3 burns, the boost back burn. And this is a view from the top of Falcon 9 looking down towards the 9 Merlin engines at the bottom of the first stage.
Here comes MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
There we go. It's on its way back. Come on, booster 1060-8. Heading back to Cape Canaveral, landing zone 1.
And there you saw on screen, we had successful stage separation. The first stage started performing its flip maneuver. And the boost back burn should be ending in about 25 seconds.
We should see those grid fins open here pretty oh, we might not see them because of the it's heading back. We'll probably see it after it is heading back
Stage
towards
1 boost back shutdown.
correctly. There's the boost back burn
And there was
complete.
confirmation of a successful boost back burn. Again, that is the first of 3 burns for the first stage. Coming up next is fairing deploy in a few seconds here from the top of the second stage.
There go those grid fins.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There's the fairing. There's Transporter
And
2
off
and all
come
of
the
its
2 fairing halves, and they have separated and
Mess of
fallen
88
away from the
CubeSats
vehicle, exposing
and
the
a few
88
Starlinks.
spacecraft to the vacuum of space. As a reminder, the recovery vessel HOS Briarwood will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today from the water. So we are about
think
T
that's
plus
actually the
4
fairing
minutes
in the
and
background
20
of the grid
seconds
fin.
into flight. We have
Or
a
some
couple
ice,
of
maybe.
views on screen. On the right-hand side is a view of our second stage Merlin vacuum engine, also known as the MVAC engine. It's currently in the first of 2 MVAC burns. This burn should last for until the T plus 8 minute and 24 second mark. About another 4 minutes left on this burn. And the next milestone will be for the first stage to perform its entry burn. That's what you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen. Falcon 9 needs to execute an entry burn to slow itself down before hitting the dense parts of the atmosphere. And without this burn, relying on the atmosphere alone to slow Falcon 9 down would put unnecessary strain on the rocket.
Vehicle is on a nominal trajectory.
The call out for a nominal trajectory. Everything's looking great so far on the Transporter 2 mission. You also notice some honeycomb-like structures have deployed on the first stage on the left-hand side. Those are our 4 hypersonic grid fins positioned at the base of the inner stage. They help to orient the rocket during re-entry by moving the center of pressure. There's also some plumes of gas coming out. This is cold nitrogen gas, which helps with attitude control. Both are essential to make sure that we have a nice targeted landing back on landing zone 1 later on in today's mission. The second burn, the entry burn, is coming up in about 30 seconds. Watch for that on the left-hand side. You can also see there's a speedometer of sorts on the bottom left-hand side. That tracks the speed of the first stage, and when we begin the entry burn, we'll start to reduce the speed, and shortly after the entry burn ends, we'll hit the denser parts of the atmosphere and also begin to further reduce our velocity as the first stage continues to make its way back towards Earth.
We're waiting for that entry burn startup here. Some final RCS thrust there just to finalize its positioning as it is
Stage
coming
2
back down.
RTLS is saved.
Coming back
Stage
down
1 entry burn
towards
startup.
land. There's entry
There's
burn.
the call out, and you can see on screen 3 Merlin engines have relit and are currently slowing down the first stage. This burn is expected to last for another 15 seconds or so.
Vehicle on a nominal trajectory.
Here comes the
Stage 1
entry
entry
burn.
burn shut down.
Entry burn
And
complete.
successful completion of our second of 3 burns. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to be attempting to recover the booster for an 8th time back on land at landing zone 1. The first
Stage 1
stage
RTLS is saved.
has 1 more burn left, the landing burn. It begins just before we touch down and provides the booster with a soft descent before we land. At the same time Falcon lands, we are expecting sequel 1 of our second stage. That's second engine cutoff. And shortly after that, we'll be entering a coast phase.
Oh,
And you
look
can
at
see
that
the
view
Florida
coming back down here.
coast and
Come
landing
on.
zone 1 are approaching on the left-hand side of the screen as this booster makes its attempt to land for an 8th time.
There's that view. Come on.
Oh, this
Come
is a
on.
great shot.
We like never get to see this. Come
the
on.
first stage coming down with its landing burn.
Stage 2 internal
Look at
guidance.
that one Merlin. This is why the boosters get so black. It's firing that engine, so it's burning up the booster on the outside, all the soot. Look at it coming down. There's the sonic boom. 400, 300 meters, 200 meters. It's coming down.
Stage 1.
Landing leg deploy.
Landing leg deploy.
Oh, they're going to nail it. Right on the meadow.
That was as smooth as I'd seen it. We had phenomenal shots all the way through the landing burn. You heard the sonic booms. This booster has landed for the 8th time. That is the 89th recovery of an orbital class rocket.
Stage 1 nominal landing confirmed.
And what a way to start
Nominal
off the
orbit
Transporter
insertion.
2 mission. At the same time, we did have successful second stage, second engine cutoff, and confirmation of a nominal orbital insertion. We are now going to coast for the next 45 minutes or so while we wait for second engine start 2. Just a few minutes after that, we'll begin to deploy the 88 spacecraft on board this mission. We will see you back here around the T plus 53 minute and 30 second mark.
And there we go. They have completed the landing there. We can see that telemetry of where they did that boost back burn and had an absolute amazing live view of that coming all the way down. And now we are waiting here. Now, I totally missed when he said the second one was going to be here. So let me just rewind this really quick to catch how long we've got.
Expected loss of signal, Cape.
Okay, so we've got some time. We got about 45 minutes until the thing here, the second stage ignition, that final burn again. But I know I missed something in the chat. James, thank you so much. That is so generous. I, really appreciate it. Thank you for that support to the channel. That's just amazing. Thank you. You guys are so generous today, and it's a huge help getting us to be able to be down for Inspiration 4 and for heading down to Starbase. We're going to be doing both on the same trip. We're heading to Inspiration 4 and then we're heading to Starbase. And if maybe things go well, I know all of you want to see SN20 fly soon, but if they hold off just a couple more weeks, we might be down there for the launch. So we're hoping that lines up. If not, we're going to be down there. We're going to give you a tour of Brownsville, South Padre, Starbase, and everything there. So if you guys have questions, drop those in the chat. I'm going to be answering those through this coast phase as we wait for SES-2. That's for that burn. And then deployment is just a short time after that. It's a pretty quick turnaround today. for that. So definitely stay with us as we watch Transporter 2 complete its mission. But I know we had a question come up earlier. What was that silver bag around the vacuum engine? And what that bag is it helps with, obviously the engine gets superheated, but they're piping in basically almost frozen fluids and gases, and that just helps regulate the temperatures from the heat and the space and the cold, and just helps regulate it a little bit better, especially with the sun too. If the booster is turning at all, you'll have hot spots on one side and cold on the other. So it's all just about regulating some of that temperature control and helping make it a little more stable. Sir Roadkill says, it still amazes me that we can watch these in near real time. It's so true. And we're watching it in 4K, which is amazing too. Like, the live feeds are coming from us to us in HD and in 4K, which is so amazing. Such a beautiful landing here. Thank you for being here, Sir Roadkill. So glad you're watching. Yes, it was beautiful, James. Thanks for watching, Star. Golden couldn't see the launch from Orlando, sadly, because of the clouds. Awesome launch, though. Yeah, it was pretty cloudy. If we come back over to this one here with Orlando, there's definitely just that wall of clouds in between Orlando and the TFR. But they have completed that launch now, and that TFR should... Well, it'll be canceled in a bit, but it'll stay in place for a little while here, as the fairings are still going to be coming down. They don't normally touch down until about 45 to 55 minutes after liftoff. Satellite deployment's going to be coming up after that burn, so we've got about 40 minutes or so until we'll have that burn. And then based on how long on this graph, which normally is proportionate, probably about 5 minutes after that we should have satellite deployment here, because some of these satellites are in what are basically space tugs. So they'll deploy one of the launcher vehicles, and then that will move around and deploy the final stuff. So absolutely. C1, that makes me wonder why they don't always land on their launch site. I think their rocket is safe enough to not have to land on a ship with water around it just in case of failure. Yeah, so it really depends on... It's so true. They know how to do it. I mean, they landed 2 at once with Falcon Heavies. All 3 times, I believe. I think they were all land landings. Maybe there was one that was water. But yeah, it all depends on the payload, the payload mass, the launch inclination, and the destination orbit. Depending if they have enough fuel, that boost back burn takes quite a bit for it here. If I'm actually just going to pull this up here, and we'll just jump back here. We might do a replay of the launch as well. But if we look where the boost back, right at separation, at what speed it was going, because they have to kill off all that speed, and we'll pull this up here. This is a replay happening right now. We're watching this is the separation here. So stage 1 is traveling over 55, let's see where it ends. And we should see cutoff, there we go. 5,900 kilometers an hour is one direction. They have to kill that all off, and then boost back all the way, the other way, to get back to the Kennedy. And they're at 75, so they'll still go up a little bit more, but they have to be able to do all that. So if they have that extra fuel, because they don't need it for the payload, then they'll come and attempt a landing back at landing zone. But most of their payloads, especially if we think about it, like 80+% of payloads are probably Starlink. They're very heavy payloads. They're 80 satellites or 60 satellites, at a time. And they're very large satellites. If you head over to our Etsy shop, we got a brand new Starlink t-shirt with the blueprints of Starlink on the back, Starlink on the chest. You can check that out if you want to pick something up. If you use promo code LaunchDay in our shop, everything is 10% off. I'm working on getting some of our stuff here in the studio so we can show it to you as well. But that's why we don't see that. Going to try to catch up on the chats here. 4K from the moon is going to be insane. It'll be cool to see if it happens. If it's NASA, let's be honest, they like their 720p. But if it's SpaceX, 4K from the moon, maybe. We might just have a little bit more of a time delay, which I'll take a minute delay for 4K. Golden, judging by how we get really good images from Mars, Artemis missions, we're going to be really nice and detailed, most likely interviews from the moon as well. It's very possible that we could do interviews, and we will, of course, try to have one of those interviews if they are ever possible. We're working on getting all those connections and opportunities, and we're working on those. We're very excited that we are confirmed to be sitting down with the entire crew of Inspiration 4, so keep lookout for that next week. We're excited to see that. And if you have questions, we're going to be putting this out on social as well. But if you have questions, drop them in the chat now. It could be a question for the whole crew or a question for a specific crew member. And we would love to take those and ask the crew for that as well. But if you have questions for Inspiration 4 about the mission, about their history, what they're going to do in their mission, anything like that, drop those in the chat and we'll save them. And we might include you as part of our Inspiration 4 interviews next week. So drop those in there. Is the moon delay from Earth 8 seconds? That's a good question. I'm not actually sure. The average is 2.4 to 2.7 seconds. Normally. So the average is 2.56 seconds. To the moon and back. Yeah. So, no, it's just seconds. I mean, you'd ask a question, you'd have to stop and wait, and then you'd get a response. But, I mean, you're talking seconds, not minutes. So definitely something that's possible to see happening here in the near future. Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good. Mars is the one that's quite a bit further, obviously, just because of the distance with it. But if we, improve satellites and stuff, it might be possible. But just with the speed of tech right now, it's a longer time delay. But it'd be something like you film all your questions and you send them, and then they film all their answers and send, and maybe you do one follow-up or something. You guys could see interviews being done that way in the future. Because we're going to have that type of communication. Every late-night TV show and every major news network is going to want to interview people on Mars for it. Thank you, sir. We got a question here from Sir Roadkill, $5. Thank you so much for that support there, sir. What was that ring thing that flew off as the Merlin started? Have a cool beverage on me. Well, thank you so much. I will definitely save that for when we are down at Starbase. Sitting on the side of Highway 4 for, we're going to do some live streams from there. We're going to film a whole bunch of footage down there. We're working on some exclusive interviews as well in the region. If you live near Orlando or Starbase and want to possibly do a meetup, we're looking at what plans can look like depending how the pandemic is at that point. But keep an eye out for details. If you join our Discord, you'll know first about what those plans are, and maybe we can do a TLP lunch or something somewhere. But we'll see what happens. That ring that you were talking about, let me pull that up here on the screen. I think you were talking just about at the stage deploy here that we see almost every time. Let me just see if I can find the image of it. There we go. Yeah, right here. So we'll bring this up. Believe this is what you were talking about here, Sir Roadkill. We'll just wait here. Right after ignition, right around the ring of the vacuum on the right below me, you're going to see this ring pop around it. That is part of the separation system, and also it can be ice because they super chill the engine bell before they do ignition. So that can be one of the two. There is some stuff there because obviously that bell is inside, so it separates. But generally speaking, that's ice. Another channel that I really enjoy watching, Overlook Horizon, kind of has dubbed the word space mouse. So if you look right now, and they switched the camera on me, but if you look around like the top of the engine bell, kind of where there's that vacuum hose that's kind of articulated almost like a claw or a nail, you see these little white things running around, and that is frozen oxygen that kind of bounces around. And sometimes they're absolutely massive, and sometimes they're really small. But they kind of look like mice sometimes running around, so they call them space mice and stuff. But yeah, that's all because it's all just so chilled in the second stage, and then they engine chill before they ignite the second booster. So that's what that is. But that's a really good question. The little things that we wouldn't normally think of or really need for it. Zastin, congratulate SpaceX with the 8 landings. Is that only their 8th landing? It seems like they've done, it feels like they did more, but yeah, it might be that there. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, great response there, Bill, with why they generally move to landing at the drone ships versus the landing site, but it is something I hope we see more of. I mean, they built them, but not at this point. We are going to see a lot of those, though, with Starship. Either they won't be drone ships and they won't be land. They'll be kind of a combination. They're these massive oil platforms that they will be landing on for that. And what we're going to do here is I forgot to make a graphic, is we're going to pull this up and we'll do a launch replay here while we're waiting for payload, because we've still got about 30 minutes until we do expect that. So we'll do a replay. I'm going to keep answering your questions, and we will go from there. So this is going to just be a replay here of the launch that we saw.
Falcon 9 is in startup. You start to hear some of the cheers here in Hawthorne. The first and second stages are beginning to pressurize for launch.
Falcon 9, Transporter 2, LD is go for launch.
That was the launch director giving the final go for launch. We are T-minus 30 seconds from liftoff. Let's tune into terminal count and watch as the Transporter 2 mission begins.
There we go. I don't know why that one's so pixelated, but that's okay. It shouldn't be.
T-minus 15 seconds.
But
10, 9,
it is. But here we go. Here's a replay of the launch. Keep those questions coming in.
2, 1, 0. Ignition and liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
It's a good,
First
clear
stage chamber
launch.
pressure is
Some
nominal.
great views from it today.
We are T-plus 42 seconds into flight. Falcon 9 has cleared its tower, and we're currently throttling down in preparation for max Q. That should be coming up in about 20 seconds. Max Q is where the vehicle will...
Got a question from G here. SN20 Super Heavy will have landing legs. Yes, it will. At least we think it will. They're going to need to have landing legs until they can figure out, one, that they know they can control the booster and land it, which they should be able to do, but two, also until they have finished building these drone ships, or, you know, oil derrick ships, basically, because they'll need to land them there. We may see with BN3, which is now fully stacked in the high bay, a small 150 meter or, you know, maybe 500 meter hop or something and try to land at the landing site. I've heard a lot of people thinking that that's what's going to happen. There is a road closure for tomorrow, and it's one that we haven't seen in a while. It is from, I believe, 7 a.m. local to 3 p.m. local time, and it not only closes the road permanently, but it closes the beach, which the only time they generally close the beach is when they're actually going to do some sort of testing with fueling and stuff, or they're going to do a lot of testing and they don't want people stuck out on the beach. They try to keep the beach open as much as possible, but it is a weekday, so they might be able to just close in to make it easier rather than risking people being there for it. But a lot of people think BN3 will do a small hop. BN4, Elon has confirmed, is the one that will actually be an orbital test launch with SN20. SN16 is complete. It's hanging out next to SN15. It's got a lot of heat arrays on it. It seemed like it was ready to go. So we're not too sure if they're going to do the hypersonic test like Elon wants, which would make sense before the orbital test, so we're keeping an eye on that. But it definitely looks like testing of BN3 is going to start very soon. Yeah, you got it there, Golden. Make sure you like and subscribe. Even if you can't support financially, that's totally okay. It's never expected, but it is so gratefully appreciated. It helps make this possible. But by liking, subscribing, and sharing, that's helping the channel. By, you know, watching those ads that sometimes pop up, that's helping support the channel. So just even by viewing those type of things, you are making the Launchpad possible, and we appreciate that. But sharing out the videos too. If you find a video that you enjoy, take 30 seconds and share it. You never know what friends or family you might have that are interested in space. I knew a guy from high school. We never talked about space in high school. I started the channel, started sharing a little bit a couple months later. Turns out he's working on Canadarm3. Like, total small world. Other people are, you know, into space that never had an idea. So share it. It's no longer one of those crazy things that if you like space, you're a little, we're going back to the moon and we're going to Mars, and it's exciting for people to know it, because people are going to want to see this. They're not going to want to live and then find out after we go back to the moon that this type of stuff has happened. We are launching hundreds of satellites a month now into orbit. SpaceX is building a constellation of tens of thousands of satellites around our planet to bring internet everywhere in the world, and in the next month and a half, they're going to have done that on the most basic level, which means airplanes, cruise ships, semis, eventually will have access no matter where they go, which is huge. SpaceX is looking at doing a phone system too. A lot of really exciting stuff. So make sure you've subscribed, invite your friends too, because we are really living through not only a space race of Moon and Mars, but I would say almost a technology advancement here on Earth as we start, you know, Earth Starship launches and all that type of stuff. Lots of stuff happening. Always exciting to follow along with it and see what happens.
The next milestone will be for the first stage to perform.
So we'll keep watching this until we see the landing here. We are currently T plus 27 minutes. We're expecting about another 27 minutes until the second stage will ignite again for a burn, finalize its orbit, and then deployment a few moments later. Got a question from Golden. Let's say the government didn't support the ISS after 2030. If SpaceX had the money, do you think they would buy it? I think they would make the offer. I'm not too sure if the ISS is something that can be sold, since it's technically like government property. And there was investments from a lot of agencies and schools and different things over decades. That's a good question. I'm not too sure on that. We do know it will last past 2030. That's why they're doing these power upgrades. A lot of different people have said that, yes, the ISS will be able to survive past 2030 because it's still being maintained. They're always rewiring. You know, they keep getting new toilets every few years. There's lots of stuff happening on the station, and there's big plans for the station to slowly privatize parts of it. So Russia may or may not be on station in 5 years. We're not too sure where that's going. At the last conference, Russia seemed to be on board to stay, but some of the other rumors are saying that they're not. They might be, putting up some new modules and then separating and either making their own station, or they might make their own station and still be at the ISS. Their new station is supposedly called Ross. Or they might partner with China. We don't know, but Axiom Space, which is going to be launching their Axiom mission starting next year, which is really exciting to see, which are private missions to the International Space Station, have plans to launch their own space station. But what they're going to do is they're putting a module on the ISS, then they're going to build out like a station basically attached to the ISS. And then once that is fully built, they will actually separate from the International Space Station and move off into their own final orbit and have their own private space station. But they're using the ISS kind of as that hub point to start. And those first, years of missions, people will get to go visit the International Space Station, even though they're most likely only going to be in the Axiom wing. They might get to do a tour quickly of the ISS, but the ISS is a working research facility. It's not a hotel. And Axiom Space is launching more hotel-type stuff. There's also a couple other big stations in the development works. New technologies for orbital building are being developed and prototyped right now. The Orbital Launch Assembly, I believe it's called, or Orbital Station Assembly. We've been following along, and we'll hopefully bring some updates about their thing. They just did their first test of their building equipment to build this huge station. So some very exciting things here. Seems like a lot of things are happening in the second half of this year. I think just with the pandemic, that's just something that ended up happening. I think, a lot of stuff happened through 2020. A lot of foundations were laid. And now that the world, I think some announcements were held off. I think people were worried about making announcements that could be seen as, I don't know, like not required at the time. You know, we were seeing mass deaths. We were seeing a lot of sick people, and it'll be quite interesting. G, will SN20 land on water? So SN20 and BN4, there's that sonic boom. You can see that wave come off of it. SN20 will be going into orbit and then coming down by Hawaii, and it will do a touchdown or a splashdown where it will do its belly flop and come down as if it's landing, and then just softly land in the ocean and then fall over. They're not landing it on a ship. It will go into the water. And then BN4 will be similar. It's going to go up and then come down in the Gulf and do a... Now, it was listed as a touchdown. So we're assuming it's going to do similar, where it comes down, fake lands, and falls over. Like they did with the early Falcon 9s before they could land them at land or on a drone ship. They tried to land them at water, and they just touched down, fell over, and then they pulled them out and tried to refurbish them.
Just a few minutes after that, we'll begin to deploy the
and then they'll go from there. But we're currently at T plus 31, correction, 32 minutes and counting for the launch of Transporter 2. We're expecting at T plus 54 to see the, second engine burn, and then just a couple short minutes after that to see the train of thought deployments of these satellites into their orbit. It's been a long day, and we're only halfway through. Will they try to recover SN20 or no? They'll try to recover it if it floats, but it's not something like that they're... I mean, we're not going to see SN20, I don't think, on display. If we look at what the other SNs have done, even if they land softly, there's a boom. So we'll see what happens. They're going to have a huge landing radius and zone, so people won't be able to... We might not even see close-ups of it as it lands. I'm sure SpaceX will have some ships in the region, so we might get some feeds from them. I know they're not going to want to miss this, but like we're not going to see a lot of private ships out there because they're going to put in a big safety zone, because we do not know how Starship will re-enter. It is very possible we could see Starship re-enter and disintegrate in re-entry, and pieces go everywhere. This is why they're not bringing it back to Starbase the first time, or bringing it back even to the Gulf, because if you are landing in the Gulf, you would have to do re-entry still over Florida, and they don't want to risk all that debris coming down. If we think back to the shuttle era when it was coming in, it started re-entry like over California and Arizona, and then streaked across, and you could see it in Texas and all the way across to Florida to land at Kennedy. So something to keep in mind there, but we'll keep an eye on it. We should be, about 20 minutes away from when we are expecting to see the deployment here. Sorry to our Discord, I totally forgot to be reading the chat here from you guys. I moved it to the wrong side here. Thanks for joining, Timo. Moon delay is 1 second. Yeah, Earth to Moon and Moon to Earth is 2 seconds. It's a retainer. It's a cork retainer. Not sure what that was in relation to, Brand. Oh, was that the ring on the ship? Maybe that's what we were talking about. Okay, awesome. Good to know. If you haven't joined our Discord, the link's in the description. You can jump on in and be in this ear. And we've got our live chat in there and the live hangout. We hang out and do Discord exclusive streams. We hang out. If you are a Patreon member or a YouTube member, you can access our behind the scenes, early video access, script editing. There's exclusive merch where you get free shirts, or we've even got a bomber jacket one that we send you fully customized with your name on it to be part of the TLP crew. But even by hanging out and watching and subscribing, you guys are part of that TLP crew. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. It's been a lot of talking today, and we will be back here in about 15 minutes for the SES-2 burn and then deployment. But you're watching our live launch, landing, and deployment coverage of Transporter 2 right here on the launch pad. Stay with us. So we'll probably do a flash update about this later today or tomorrow. We'll see how the day progresses. But we got some interesting tweets from Elon in response to Everyday Astronaut and some other people here. People talking about the landing today on the landing zone, and I was hoping we might see something from Elon. And he said, with the landing zone landing of the Falcon today, great shot. By the way, Starship Super Heavy will not have an entry burn. Delta V is shifted more to the ship, so the booster entry Q and heating is lower. Someone asked in response, will the first orbital Super Heavy have grid fins? Elon said, the first one to fly will. So booster 4. The first one to fly will, so booster 4. Booster 3 will be used for ground tests. We're changing much of the design from 3 to 4. Booster 3 was very hard to build. Expect especially rapid evolution in the first 10 boosters and first 30 ships. So some very big developments there. In one, they're planning the next 30 ships and 10 boosters, which is amazing. We finally have confirmation of booster numbers. Booster 3 is in the high bay right now. Booster 4 is coming soon. But they're going to be apparently changing a lot of the design, which is probably maybe why we haven't seen any new renders or announcements. They wanted to, start building this thing and know what they can do with it for it. Now, Booster 3, he says, is for ground tests. So I do not believe Booster 3 will do a hop. I believe Booster 4 is the first one that's going to do a flight for it. So it'll be very interesting to see for it what is happening. But that it was just tweeted. We've tweeted that all over on our Twitter at @TLPN_official. So make sure to go check that out if you want to see those tweets. Retweet them out. Let people know what's going on. But we'll continue this little break. Keep sending in any questions that you have. But we're coming up on about T-minus 10 minutes until we're expecting SES-2. You're watching our live launch coverage of Transporter 2 right here on the launch pad. Stay with us. Well, thank you guys for hanging in there with us. We are coming up. We're about 2 minutes away from when we're expecting SpaceX to come back and give us a quick little update as we come up to SES-2, or Second Engine Start 2. This is where they're going to do a burn to finalize their orbit. They have currently already done one complete orbit and are on their way around again. And it looks like, trying to track which way they're going. Looks like they're going to the north. Yeah, so they're passing Australia, heading back up towards Africa, I'm guessing this will be. We'll see in a few minutes here. But we're going to have this burn here, and then just about 3-4 minutes later, we will have deployment. But then there are going to be more deployments. It's not just one deployment to wrap us up. So we will stay live, of course, until all the deployments have been completed, and hopefully they will give us a rough timeline, as we have not had one yet on what deployment kind of like scheduling will be today for this. So we're going to keep an eye on that and see where if we get any updates on what the breakdown of deployment is, what's deploying when, things like that. They just passed Antarctica. Yes, they did. Yep. They're on their way back, heading north, because they are in that polar orbit. This was only the third polar orbit launch, I believe, since the 60s. We just saw a little update to the speed and altitude there. That's because they probably didn't have a ground station, but they got a ground station there. So now they're getting some live telemetry. That's why we saw that little jump in data, their map update, and stuff like that. I would love to take credit for the music star, but this is the SpaceX music. We're working on getting some of our own
Welcome
TLP
back
original.
to the Transporter 2 mission,
to
our
Garcia.
second dedicated rideshare mission. Falcon 9 lifted off at 3:31 p.m. Eastern Time from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and had successful stage separation. We landed our first stage on landing zone 1 and successfully completed our first second stage burn. We are waiting to relight our MVAC engine on the second stage for a second and final burn. It's going to be a quick burn lasting about 2 seconds. And that should be coming up in about 15 seconds.
They really love these 1-2 second burns here. And they're spreading out that timeline. Okay, see, it looks like we're going to have some rapid deployment here. So, might be a little more exciting than deploy. But,
MVAC
we'll
engine
see
chill
what...
underway.
There's the engine chill. So they're getting ready to reignite that engine. Oh.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Just sounds like such a commanding voice.
So we did have successful second engine start for the second time and successful second engine cutoff. And you just heard the call for a nominal orbital insertion. So the second stage is going to coast for a few minutes before we start to deploy our satellites. And as I mentioned, this is our second dedicated rideshare mission. Our goal with these rideshare flights is to provide small satellite operators with competitive pricing, increased flight opportunities, and flexibility. These dedicated rideshare flights to Sun-Synchronous orbits will occur about 3 times a year, providing regular access to orbit. In addition, we also offer opportunities for ride to orbit on our Starlink missions, which launch every couple of weeks. We've launched 4 Starlink missions that include rideshare spacecrafts as well, and we're hoping to launch much more in the future. So coming up in about 2 minutes, we are expecting the start of the deployment sequence. There will be 31 deployments for 88 spacecraft, which will occur over a 30-minute period of time. This includes CubeSats, microsats, and orbital transfer vehicles, sometimes called space tugs, which will deploy their spacecraft after separating from Falcon 9, and also 3 Starlink satellites. Many of these deployments will be grouped within seconds of each other, while others may be a minute or more apart. This is a look at the order of deployments between now and the final deployment around the T+1 hour and 27-minute mark. You should hear the call out from our mission operators as each deployment happens. And to keep in mind, most of these deployments include multiple satellites. So while there are 31 deployments, at the end, we will have put 88 satellites into orbit, again, including our 3 Starlink satellites. We are about a minute away. This is a view of our second stage. And back to the animation. Several of the customers on board this mission have multi-launch agreements with SpaceX. So some of the names might sound familiar to those of you who have tuned in for previous rideshare missions. It's also worth noting that we will lose access to ground station coverage for a short period during the 30-minute window, 30-minute deployment sequence. When we reach that point, we'll let you know. And here's the view of the second stage MVAC engine. Similar to the first transporter mission, we'll be flying a fuel dome payload tray, which is essentially a small platform mounted on the back end of the second stage fuel dome that will release a handful of payloads. And as you may have already noticed, one of our 2 MVAC views is obstructed because of that fuel dome payload tray.
Acquisition of signal, Bangalore.
Hearing that
We
acquisition
are
of signals
expecting the
is
first batch-
really good. Is really good because that means we'll have some good coverage here. We're looking for that first deployment.
Phase 1, separation confirmed.
There goes the first one. Let's see if we can see it.
NewSat 19, separation confirmed. First ISI satellite, separation confirmed.
Can we see any of them? That might be one floating off
Tropics
there.
Pathfinder, separation confirmed. Domes 2, separation confirmed.
There goes one. Oh, we missed it. Bring the camera back. Yeah, that's definitely one floating off, I think. Or maybe that could be the moon, too. Should be another one coming up here right away. Oh, there's a big one.
Second ISI satellite, separation confirmed. TIVAC 0211, separation confirmed. YAM-3, separation confirmed.
What a great name for a satellite, YAMS.
Tubin,
YAM-3.
separation confirmed.
There's another one we just, as they came back. Oh, now we can see the other side. There goes one. You can see the various size, shapes, colors, materials of all of these. There's one off in the
Umbrasar,
distance.
separation confirmed. Ion satellite carrier, separation confirmed.
So that one's carrying multiple satellites for it. And I see a question in here from Star. Is the Tesla car still in space? Yes. Starman aboard its Tesla Roadster will be in orbit pretty much indefinitely until we probably stop it one day or it gets, hit by something. But it has completed. It went from Earth, went to Mars, came back to Earth already, and is already on its way back to Mars. If you want to check out its live position, just Google "Where is Starman?" And there's a website that is tracking it, giving you all the information of speed, miles, how many million times it's gone over its warranty, how many billion times it's listened to the song Starman, and all that stuff. But lots to be there to check out and track Starman. No worries, G. Thanks for being here. We will see you later. We'll be flying your craft a little later tonight, so have a great night. Orange guy, or is it an alien ship? It's not an alien ship. It's not moving too fast. Should see some more deployments here. Hopefully on camera.
Links 2, separation confirmed.
Nope, not that one. Couple big ones still on here. And then there are some Starlinks that I'm assuming are at the very, very end here, which they will have to spin the stage. It's not making cool enough sounds. There goes one.
USAT 20, separation confirmed.
It's a really cool thing. You can see this one on the screen here. The black kind of cylinderish says EXO launch. That's just
USAT
one of
21,
many.
separation confirmed.
One of many satellite launch companies that build different deployment units and stuff. We've been following them for a while.
Capella SAR satellite,
cool to see
separation
there.
confirmed.
So they're switching back and forth.
Third ISI satellite, separation confirmed.
And we're going to have a loss of signal coming up here in just a few seconds. But hopefully we can maybe
So we got
still see
confirmation.
some-
Expected loss of signal, Diego Garcia.
We got confirmation for 5 more deployments. That was the Space Development Agency General Atomics Paraton's Lynx 2, Satellogics NewSat 20 and 21, the Capella SAR satellite, and the third ICE-I satellite from an exoport. For those that are wondering, exoport is an adapter, special adapter built by our ExoLaunch customer.
Oh, hey, Tubular.
We are about halfway
sorry
through
about that. If you
the
click on the
31
three
total
dots,
deployments
it
on
should
today's
give you
mission.
an option to close them.
And coming up, we
But,
have
we
2 more
can
deployments. These are going to
definitely
be for the Space Development Agency General Atomics Lynx 1,
wrap those up there. But yeah,
as
if you
well
tap on
as
just
the
the 3
DARPA
dots, you should
Space
be able
Development
to close
Agency
them,
Air Force Research
and be able to
Laboratories
see the
Mandrake
chat
2.
there. Sorry, he was talking. Yeah, if you just click the 3 dots, you should be able to close them. If you can't, let me know, and I can close them down here on our end as well. The Starlink has a star on it. Not really. Maybe, sort of.
Links 1, separation confirmed. Mandrake 2
there's
able,
some-
separation confirmed.
There goes another one. Pretty good size. When you think about how big this
We got
fairing
confirmation
is.
for Space Development Agency General Atomics Paraton's Lynx 1 deployment, as well as the DARPA Space Development Agency Air Force Research Laboratories Mandrake 2 able. And coming up in less than a minute, we are expecting the next deployment. It's going to be the 4th ICE-I satellite from an exoport.
That's interesting, Tubular. It's good to know. What browser are you using? It's good to know. We want to try to find those things so we know, so we can, make sure the chat is good for you guys as well. So, thank you for letting us know about that. Some more deployments
Fourth
coming up
ISI
here.
satellite, separation confirmed.
And that was confirmation of the 4th ICE-I satellite from an exoport. The next batch of deployments, there's going to be 6 of them. It is for Swarm's 1st and 2nd Space B cluster from an exoport, Nano Avionics D2 Altacom 1 from an exoport, Spire's Lemur number 1 from an exoport, Satellogics NewSat 22, and Loft Orbital's YAM2 satellite.
Deployment should be coming up here in the next couple seconds, and then looks like we will have a few minute break until the next maybe wave of deployments here. But they said it should be about 6 to 8 more minutes total, I believe, until all deployments are complete. Actually, maybe about 12. They said about 30 minutes of deployments. Ooh, there's one shooting out.
First Space B cluster, separation confirmed.
I'm pretty sure that's the moon, Golden. Just based on how it's transitioning, I think it's the moon.
Second
Yeah, you
Space
could
B
be
cluster,
running...
separation confirmed.
That could be your issue there, Tubular. No worries. We were able to take them down, so they should... If you... There's
D2
another one.
Applicom 1, separation confirmed.
If you are able to refresh at some point, hopefully those will clear off
Lemur
for
number
you.
1, separation confirmed.
Just shooting satellites out like there's no tomorrow. So this one, it's history. It's definitely launching a lot, but not the record. Transporter 1 launched 133 private satellites and 10 Starlinks. So setting a record of 143. I want to say it was 145, the official number at the end, because they kept adding
Ascent
more.
22, separation confirmed.
145 satellites in one go, which was very
EM2,
historic.
separation confirmed.
Awesome,
And we
Tubular.
got
Yeah, we
some
took them
really
down
cool
on our
views
end,
of
so
the
they should
satellites
be all
separating.
cleaned up there.
That
We're close to
was
wrapping up
for
too. So
Swarm's first
no
and
issue at
second
all.
Space B cluster from an exoport. Nano Avionics D2 Altacom 1 from an exoport. Spire's Lemur number 1 from an exoport. Satellogic's NewSat 22 and Loft Orbital's YAM2 satellite. The next 2 deployments are going to happen during a blackout period, which means that we lose camera views and telemetry. While we wait to regain access to ground station coverage in a few minutes, sit back and follow along with our animation that shows you where we're at in the mission. We'll see you back here at the T+1 hour and 15-minute mark.
So we got a little bit of a break here as they have done pretty much another orbit there and are now going up over India and Russia, maybe the edge of China, and coming up over the Arctic for it. Looks very small. It's quite large when you think about how big a Falcon 9 is, because that big tube fits in the fairing and then the satellites are sticking out from it. Now, they're not huge. But a lot of these are CubeSats. There's also a number of these that are like tugs. So they're deploying a larger piece, and then there's smaller ones inside. So, hey Virginia, good to see you. How's it going? I'm going to save you guys from what sounds like one bagpipe. Just like one bagpipe note. Just... Maybe when they change the song, we'll put it back on. I meant the thing looks very small to be the moon. Oh, yes. No, off in the distance. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the moon. Could be a star, maybe. Just catching the camera the right way, but most likely the moon. While we're waiting for this, I'll take just a quick moment here. If you haven't yet, as always, ways you can plug in with us. Follow us over, of course, right here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss another live launch or space news update. If you want to help support our work, you can do so through Patreon, YouTube memberships, or Super Chats or Super Stickers. If you want to stay up to date on everything space, we tweet a lot when there is space updates that we can confirm or space news. So follow us over on Twitter at TLPN_official. If you got Facebook or Twitch, we're on there as well, so you can check those out. And make sure to check out the Launchpad shop, Etsy.com/the Launchpad. Use promo code just promo code LaunchDay, and you get 10% off everything in the shop. We got some new items came out last night. We got some more coming out in the near future here as well. So definitely go favorite the shop. And follow along with all of our things. If you have some merch ideas as well, of something that you'd love to see that you haven't seen anywhere, send it in to us and we will see if we can make that happen. Golden, I saw that you live streamed the Perseverance rover landing. If that happened today, you would have easily had close to 1,000 people watching live with the growth. Yeah, that was a small day. Not actually even sure what what we ended up getting, but it was good. It was very exciting to see. My name was on the rover, so it was very exciting to see that happen, and we've been following along with Ingenuity quite closely. But yeah, it's been a special. Today is the end of June, which means we have now completed our 6th month. We have finished the first 6 months of the launch pad, and wow, what a 6 months it has been. Thank you guys for being here and just making this all possible. The next 6 months are going to be even crazier and more exciting, and we've got some big milestones coming up. We've got some crazy goals for the end of the year. I think it'd be super cool to wrap up the year at 10,000 subscribers, and I don't think that's gonna not be possible thanks to your guys' help. So always sharing it out is amazing. But that's my goal: 10,000 subs by the end of the year would be really amazing. That was not my goal when I started the channel. My goal when I started the channel was like 250 by the end of the year. So you guys have already blown that out of the water, and I appreciate you guys being here for that. We're going to be at our first launch. I'm going to see my first launch in person, but we're going to do our first live launch coverage. We're going to be seeing Starship in person. We're going to be doing some more interviews. We're having inspiration for the full crew for exclusive one-on-one interviews with each of the crew coming up here on the launch pad next week, so definitely stay tuned for that. Virginia, the launch pad, did Zach did Virgin Orbit get telemetry back on their rocket? And did they? Yes, so they did get telemetry back. Everything went perfectly. The rocket performed its burns properly, and deployment went well as well. They just didn't have ground stations. They didn't have them long enough to download the data that says it. So definitely a little bit nerve-wracking. And based on some of the stuff on the screen too, it didn't sound like it was in a perfect orbit. But it did. They're very happy and was a successful mission there. Golden 2.76K in 7 months is pretty good. Congrats. Well, thank you there. Thanks, Virginia. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. We're at 2.77 right now, which is crazy. YouTube takes a day or two to update. So we'll see what happens. Like, what do you think? 5K before we get down to Inspiration 4? Do we think it's possible? I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm here for the journey. I love doing this, and as long as you guys are enjoying it, that's what makes it worth it. Obviously, having more subscribers helps make it more financially doable to do more of these in-person things, but with you guys watching and supporting. But we do this here for the passion and the joy of it, of covering everything space, spaceflight, space engineering, and the future of space and STEM, because this is a time we're not going to want to miss. In 5 or 10 years, when we got starships flying all over the place and other space stations, and we're back on the moon with bases, these are the years we're going to want to look back. And I think a lot of us are very grateful, and I don't think any of us would have said this, grateful for the pandemic, because think of how much we've been able to follow Starship, how closely we've been able to follow some of the Falcon 9 launches and the return of U.S. crewed launches to the space station with a new capsule. We were at home. We were able, even if we are at work, have it on our phone, or, watch it right after work because we're at home. We don't have to drive an hour.
The webcast for Transporter 2, SpaceX's second dedicated.
I think it's just been a special year. It's been a unique year, and I hope all of you are well and your families are too. But there's been some special moments this year, and last year and a half, in being able to follow this advancement in space, and it is picking up. It's just the beginning. So we're having some deployments coming up here, and it looks like we got a few more coming up. But we should be coming close to the end of all the deployments here in the next probably 10, maybe 15 minutes or so. But if you have questions, let us know in chat, and we'll be, of course, answering those as we continue our live coverage of Transporter 2, the second ever dedicated rideshare mission from SpaceX into a polar orbit as well, for only the 3rd time since, I believe, the 60s. Very rare launch.
Lemur number 2 and Mandrake 2 Baker separations confirmed.
Acquisition of signals, forward.
Marcus, do you mean the first
And there
live
was the confirmation for Spire's Lemur number 2 from an exoport, the DARPA Space Development Agency Air Force Research Laboratories Mandrake 2 Baker satellites. Coming up, the next 2 deployments will happen a few minutes from now. Those will be for Spaceflight Incorporated's SHERPA-FX 2 and the LTE-1 satellites. We're going to leave you with a short animation, and sit back and follow along, and we'll see you back here once we hear those callouts.
So in relation to what Marcus is saying, Marcus has been here since like day 8 or so of the channel, which is crazy. And he was super amazing and was down in person for us, covering Starlink in person. The first live with me in person is what I meant. Marcus is a big part of our team in making stuff possible, and our launch history calendar and a bunch of stuff. Was down for Starlink, and yes, he got a sunburn. I told you, sunscreen. But yes, first one with me down in person, I'm meaning. With the, Falcon 9 that way, the VAB that way, and me probably screaming my head off because it's the first launch I'll ever see in person. So I'm excited, and it couldn't be anything more special than the first all-civilian mission to space. That's pretty cool, and maybe if Starship just holds off a couple more weeks, we go straight from Falcon 9 Inspiration 4 to a Starship launch. I think that'd be pretty good. I wouldn't be complaining. Gonna have that deployment coming up here in about 2 minutes or so. I don't have the full. Let me just rewind here on the iPad to see that deployment list that they showed us, because that gave us a breakdown of where we would be at. I think he said Sherpa, didn't he? Pretty sure he said Sherpa, which if he said Sherpa, there'll be 2 deployments, and then there'll be that little break, and then Starlink. But we'll see here. Sounds good, Marcus. Have a good shift, and we will hopefully see you at some point tonight on the landing pad. Let me just double check what he said just before the end here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've got these 2 deployments, and then we have those Starlink, which the Starlinks you can see actually at the top of your screen. Yep, we got 2 more deployments of the Sherpas, and then that last deployment we see coming up is the Starlinks, and then we will be done for there. There's the North Pole. Yes, they're over the North Pole. They're coming up to it. Not there just yet.
Acquisition signal to Lee.
There's the acquisition back, which is great.
Welcome back once again to the webcast for Transporter 2, SpaceX's second dedicated small-sat rideshare program mission. We have 2 deployments coming up. These are going to be the last 2 for our rideshare customers. They are for Spaceflight Incorporated's SHERPA-FX 2 and Sherpa LTE 1. And that should be coming up in about 20 seconds.
Hopefully we'll see them, maybe, if they have a ground station. It's about to come up over Greenland and into Canada. The Penguins can have not yet. They haven't deployed the Starlinks just yet. And they do take a fair bit of number of weeks to get into placement. But soon, very soon, Santa will be able to finally watch the Santa Claus movie series and Jingle All the Way. We're waiting for that deployment here. Because they're going to have to spin to deploy those Starlinks, I believe. Which is why we see that gap in time. So there's a great view here. You can see the kind of doors open on that long dark gray one, top left corner. Those doors are what open, and that's where they were deploying out of. Some of the smaller CubeSats. Hey, there goes a big one.
SHERPA-LT1
and there
separation
goes the other
confirmed.
One. And you see on screen and heard the confirmation. We got confirmation of Spaceflight Incorporated's SHERPA-FX2 and SHERPA-LTE1 deployment. Now, these are the last of our rideshare deployments for today, but we're not done. We have 3 Starlink satellites to deploy as well. That's going to be coming up in a few minutes here, so sit back. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you back here at the T+1 hour and 27-minute mark.
We got a couple minutes until we get that Starlink. You can actually see us coming around. They still got stage 1 on the screen there. So not perfectly over the North Pole, but pretty close. Coming over Greenland now and soon to be Canada. If you have any last minute questions, drop those on in the chat. Take a moment, check out our Etsy shop, etsy.com/thelaunchpad. And yeah, follow us on Twitter at TLPN_official if you haven't yet. Because we'll probably wrap up pretty quickly after this one, as we will be back live tonight in like not even 5 hours for our weekly hangout, the landing pad, where we hang out and answer your questions, talk about topics that you guys submit, and play some Kerbal. Yes, they're getting it done. Yeah, it's been a pretty steady stream. You know, you had that big coast phase, but it's been pretty rapid since. Excuse me. This is what happens when you only have like 45 minutes of sleep. Music's too loud? Yeah, I can pull that down. Thank you for letting me know. Good to know. It goes up and down. Sometimes it's super quiet, sometimes it's super loud. So good to know. More of that little bits of ice floating off. Now, if this is like another Starlink mission, like normal ones, they have to spin that second stage and they kind of throw them off. But we will see. Gotta get a new chair. It's so squeaky. If you're a chair company and you want to sponsor the channel with a new chair, call us. Hey, Gerardo, how's it going? So those are those Starlinks at the very top that are wider than that cylinder. Some of the other boxes and tubes that you're seeing are from the payload deployment systems. So those will go along with the second stage that will eventually do a re-entry burn and burn up in the atmosphere, and then anything left splash down in an ocean zone that has been determined and cleared as a no-sail zone for the time being. And you can see now that the whole second stage starting to spin as they get ready to deploy that second stage.
And welcome back to the webcast
or those
for
Starlink
SpaceX's
satellites.
Transporter 2 mission. If you're
Not the
just
second
joining us,
stage.
we are close to the end of today's mission, which launched this morning from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida at 3:31 p.m. Eastern Time. We then had 2 successful ignitions and shutdowns of the second stage Merlin vacuum engine, then successful deployment of a majority of our spacecraft for our
Evac
commercial
0173,
and
separation confirmed.
government customers. We were also able to successfully recover our first stage for an 8th
He just said a majority. So did some not deploy?
173 satellite. So all payloads so far are have been confirmed for deployment, and we have 3 Starlink satellites to go, and we are expecting confirmation of that deployment here shortly.
Hopefully that was just a slip up in talking. But stage 2 will just burn up after. Yep. So well, it'll do a burn. It does a deorbit burn by itself to make sure that it comes down controlled into a designated position. So unlike
Expected
the China
loss of
ones that people
signals,
have been,
forward.
unlike the China ones people have been freaking out about crashing in, SpaceX takes care of their garbage. That's something that most modern companies are doing. And at some point, it'll fire its engines, deorbit burn, come down controlled into a designated spot, and burn up in the atmosphere. And for it, the second stage is something that they have not been able to make reusable. That's why it's always bright white when it launches. But the booster, the fairings, those are reusable. We're waiting for that deployment here. It looks like they might be just a little delayed on their timeline, and there they go. A different launching system than we're used
Starlink deploy
to,
confirmed.
because there's only 3 of them, but you can see them moving off there quite quickly.
And there goes our 3 Starlink satellites. Again, that is 88 spacecraft confirmed for deployment on today's Transporter 2 mission. With that said, we will be bringing our webcast to an end. We would like to thank all of our rideshare customers for their support on today's mission. We would also like to thank the United States Air Force for range support, as well as the Federal Aviation Administration for licensing. Continue to follow us on SpaceX.com for future missions and milestones, as well as our Twitter and Instagram profiles. And if you are excited by what you've seen today and want to join our team, visit SpaceX.com/careers to learn more about working at SpaceX. And as always, thank you to all of our viewers for your continued support, and have a great rest of your day.
And just like that, they are done. Transporter 2 in the books, 88 satellites deployed. I want to give a huge shout out to Sir Roadkill, James Dowling, and a crazy huge shout out, virtual hug, to Brenda Miller. Thank you so much for your guys' support with your super chats today. And super stickers. That's so generous. Thank you to our Patreon supporters and our YouTube members. We really appreciate the support, and all that makes us able to make the best possible coverage that we can, space news and educational videos. We've got a bunch in the planning that we can't wait to release for you, to equip you to seeing launches or help you guys learn more about everything space that is happening, because there's so much happening. We, of course, as I've said, will be live tonight for the landing pad. That's our weekly night hangout. You guys named it that. We're going to hang out, talk about anything you guys want to talk about, space topics, answer your questions, and fly some Kerbal. Obviously, talk about the launches today and yesterday, and looking forward to things in the future, and talk about Inspiration 4 as we are collecting your questions to ask the crew as we sit down with them in the next few days. But for now, that's going to do it for us here at the Launchpad. Make sure you have, of course, followed us at all of our socials, subscribed here on YouTube, followed us on Twitter. If you'd like to support, as I said, Patreon or YouTube memberships are the way to do it. And there's other Facebook and Twitch you can follow us over on as well. Oh my goodness, Johnny, right in there at the end. Thank you so much, Johnny, for that support. Really appreciate that here. It should pop up on the screen in a second. You got in there right before I ended. I'm glad you did, because I would have been worried if we've had a couple where people have done it as we've ended, and it's like, oh no, we missed it. So thank you so much. I so appreciate that. This was the biggest support we've had in a stream yet, and it's we've spent some money to get ready for Inspiration 4 and Starbase, and this support makes sure that we're able to continue doing that. We've got plans. We want to try to be down there, at least every couple months if we can, or have our own crew down there to bring you guys that best possible coverage, and that's where all that support goes. It doesn't go to salaries, it goes to our expanding and bringing you that coverage. So thank you. But that's going to do it for us. I'm going to be live tonight on the landing pad, so make sure you head over. That stream is scheduled. Jump on over, hit like right now, say hello in the chat, drop any questions you have in, and I will make sure to save those and answer them when we go live tonight. But for now, this is Zach with the Launchpad. We cover everything space, space flight, space engineering, and the future of space and STEM. Signing off. We will see you guys tonight.